Okay, welcome everyone. As we are sponsored Nishmas Dav Mechaim L'Refu Shalem and Fel Yomis Mechai Sarah Yaakov and Maskeleah for the schus of Avram and Yom Ben Nishma Malk Yudis and family. We are sponsored by the Fisher family, the Nishmas Basi Bas Robert Shlomo Ben Avram Alevi Perel Bas Ruvain. By Yod Klugman and family, we are sponsored L'Refu Shalem for Esther Fadal Baschana, Moshe Ben Esther Fadal, Avidraya Ben Rivka in the Baschai, sorry, Yitzhak Ben Siyam Ben Dusha, Rivka Bashir Eleah, Chana Bashashabina, and for Mordechai, Tzvi Ben Golda, and Meir Ben Chaya. Sorry, they should have Refu Shalema B'Sek Shachali Yisrael. Okay, this is a very, very long Mishnah, a very interesting Mishnah. Behema Mekasha Leilit, a behema that's in a difficult labor. V'hoitzi uberes yadai, and the fetus stretched out its, let's say, foreleg. Doesn't have a hand. It's foreleg. V'chatocha, and you cut it off. So remember, that which was cut off, that's basa basada treifa loiseichelu. That won't be able to be eaten. V'achakach shachades imai, and then you shechted the mother. So the rest of the fetus is permitted to be eaten. The question is, it was in contact with this limb that went out, which is like nevela, it's a treifa, and it touched the fetus inside, but abasar tar, the fetus inside is tar, because when it was in contact, before it was cut off, the fetus inside yet was not foodstuff, and therefore it's not susceptible to tumah. However, shachad es imai, if you shechted the mother, so now the fetus inside is permitted to be eaten, and then you cut off the limb. Oh, so wait a second. That limb, which was tameh, when you cut it off, was in contact with the fetus, and that should make the fetus tameh, because then it was foodstuff. So abasar magen nevela, the meat came in contact with that piece that you cut off, which is an avela, and it's metameyet. Divrei meir. That's different meir. The Chacham say, no. We just said that the limb that stuck out has din of a treifa. Basa basad, the treifa went out of its mechitza as a treifa. And we know that when you shech the treifa, you're metarit from tumas nevela. Since you shechted the mother, that limb that stuck out has a din of treifa that now you did shchita on, and that at least removes the tumah. Says, just like if you have a treifa, if you have an animal with a perforated membrane of the brain, and you shechted it, even though it's not kosher, but it takes away the tumas nevela. Af shchitas behemoth, also the shchita of the mother, titar es ha'aver, it's matar the aver from tumas nevela, and therefore, even though it was in contact with the fetus, which was edible, it's not matama the fetus. Amalem Rameir, so Rameir says, no, you're mixing apples and oranges. Lo im tiara shchitas treifa. If when you shecht an animal that has, let's say, the majority of the width of the windpipe is severed, if you shecht a treifa, it becomes tar from nevela because oisa davar shegufa, because it's the animal itself that you're shechting. So that's matar, the treifa from nevela. Tatar es ha'aver, when you shecht the mother, should it be matar the aver of the fetus that's outside? Davar she'ena gufa, it's not what you're actually shechting. Now, switching gears, how do we know this din? That when you shech the treifa, it takes away the tumas nevela. That's a magical thing. Right? We had 18 types of treifa. We said, let's say, for example, an animal falls off a roof and it's treifa because of risuk evarim, all its inner limbs are shaken up. How do we know that when you shecht it, even though it's not kosher to be eaten, it removes the tumah of nevela? How do we know that? Menayin l'treifa shchitasa mitarta. How do we know this? So says the Mishnah, it's a very lengthy argument for a Mishnah. Behemoth Tameya Asura Ba'achila. A behemoth Tameya, let's say a horse, is also to be eaten. Af Treifa Asura Ba'achila. So a treifa is also Asura Ba'achila. Behemoth Tameya. If you shech the horse, ain't shchitasa metarata. The shchita doesn't take away its tumah. Af treifa, which is not kosher, loite tarena shchitasa. We should say that the shchita shouldn't take away its tumah. Says Gemara, it's not a good comparison. Ima marta bebehemoth tameya sheloi hoisa lo shasa kosher. A horse, a donkey, was never permitted. So that's why its shchita doesn't take away its tumah. Taima betreifa, an animal that got a perforated membrane of the brain, it was once okay before it got the defect. Therefore, the shchita takes away its tumah. So, if that's the logic, I should carry it a step further, that if an animal is born a treifa, and if it was born missing the maw, it was born a treifa. If it was born with a perforated membrane of the brain, so it never had a shasa kosher, so then the shchita shouldn't be matarit. How we should know the treifa min abet and minayin. How do you know that even if it was born with a defect, still the shchita takes away the tumas nevela? So the Gemara says, it's still not a good comparison to a horse or a donkey. In its species, there's no shchita. There's no shchita by any horse, by any donkey. Taima betreifa, even if this specific animal was born with a defect from birth, since sheyesh b'mina shchita, since its species has shchita, the shchita is matar. Therefore, says the Mishna, there would be one case where the shchita is not matar, the tumas nevela, and that's ben shmoyne chai. In Talmudic times, if it has a gestation period of 8 months, it wasn't able to live. Both a human and a mammal that had a gestation of 8 months, it couldn't live. So there, since none of its kind of an 8-month creature can ever live, there the shchita would not be matar. Ben shmoyne chai, ein shchitasa mataratoi, lefisha ein b'minoi shchita. Of its kind, there is never shchita. Now, this is a real interesting situation. Hashoichet es a behema. Let's say I shecht a female. Umotza by shmoyne chai oimes. You find inside it an animal 8 months old, living or dead. Oy ben tishames, or it's a 9-month animal, dead. Well, the din is uber yerach imai. The fetus is part of the mother, and the shchita causes it to be permitted to be eaten. You just have to remove it, tear it open, to purge it from its blood, and then it can be eaten. Kaira yumaitzi es damai. Oh, but what about the following case? Motza ben tishachai. If you open it up and you find a 9-month-old alive, can you still just eat it? So the Tana Kama holds a 9-month-old, that's a fully developed fetus, is not part of the mother. And therefore the shchita of the mother doesn't cover it. And therefore when you take it out, ton shchita, and since it needs shchita, you can't shecht it on the day that you shechted the mother. Because the Torah says you cannot shecht a mother and its child on the same day. You wouldn't be able to shecht it the day that you shechted the mother. You have to wait till the next day. That's the Torah din of Isa Espanoi. Divrei Meir. Chacham say, no, I don't care if it's 9 months old. If it's inside the mother, the shechita of the mother covers it. It purifies it, and if it never walked on the ground, it doesn't need its own shechita. The Chachamim agree that if it came out and walked on the ground, midarabanan, you should shecht it, so that people shouldn't say that an animal doesn't need shechita. But that's only rabbinical. Rabbi Shimon Shizuri takes it further. He doesn't say any gzeira. Shimon Shizuri, afilu ben shmeina shanim. Even if it was in the mother when you shechted it, it came out, and it lived for 8 years, v'chayreish basada, and it plowed in the field, I don't care. Since it was inside the mother when you shechted it, shchitas imay metartai. The shchita of the mother is enough. However, everybody agrees that kara, if you didn't shecht the mother, you tore open the mother, umatzah ben tishachai, and found a 9-month-old living animal, well, since you didn't shecht the mother, it can't be permitted with the shechita of the mother. Then ton shechita, the mother wasn't slaughtered, so therefore it needs shechita before you could go ahead and eat the animal. Okay, again, we want to remind you that tomorrow night, Shir is 8 o'clock with Chumash Shir, Yimiyatz Hashem, to follow. Thank you for joining us. Please put this in the books. Gemara and long Mishna finished by 10 to 9. I don't know what you're going to do with the rest of your night. Have a good evening, everyone.